Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. It's the weekend. You know what that means. I'm answering a bunch of your mailbag questions on today's video, more so than I have in the past. So a good chance to get your mailbag question answered. Before we do, though, if you want to get your question in on a future mailbag, you got to be a subscriber. That is the caveat, to go down below and hit the big red subscribe button, as well as ask a question on this video. I pull some of my future questions from comments in this video, so use the hashtag Eagles down below to get your question in on the show. Jump into your mailbag questions here today on this weekend edition of the mailbag. Again, a lot of questions to get into. Let's start with Christian Rob, / child of God. Long name there here. He says, how do you have any back ahead of Boston, whom we guaranteed to come back this year, other than Miles, of course? Because I like Gainwell and Johnson. I've said it before. I mean, listen, I'm a big fan of Boston Scott. I appreciate what Boston Scott has brought to the table the past couple of seasons, but Gainwell and Johnson are more talented. And that's the simple fact. I mean, listen, Kenny Gainwell himself is more talented. Even though he was a fifth-round draft pick, he was slotted to be a, top 3 third-round draft pick, maybe even into the late second round at one point. He fell off towards the end of the draft stuff because he's a running back, but of course, very talented. I think Kerryon Johnson is going to be a breakout potential star on this roster. I'm just a huge fan of the running back depth chart in general. Honestly, and I don't want to, ruffle any feathers here. I don't care who plays running back. Besides Miles Sanders, like you said, of course, Miles Sanders is the starter. I could care less if Scott gets the second most touches, Johnson gets second most touches, Gainwell gets second most touches, Jordan Howard is a fan favorite for some reason, gets the second most touches. All I care about is having the best running back group, Philadelphia could possibly have, because they literally, over the past couple of years, have had spurts of good running games. They had a fantastic running game in 2017, but post-Super Bowl, it's been very much up and down. They'd have some good games, they've had some bad games, they've had some healthy players, some unhealthy players. Give me the best couple of guys to play. I happen to believe it'll be Gainwell, Johnson, and of course, led by Miles Sanders. If you think it's Scott, that's fine. We'll figure it all out in training camp. Answer the pinned comment down below. Over under 100 touches for Boston Scott in 2021. I think that's kind of the number we need to start thinking about here for who is running back number 2, because obviously Sanders gets the most touches. Over under 100 touches for Scott. I want to see what you guys think down below right now. Okay, Matthew says, who's going to have the most receiving yards this year? And if you could give me an estimate of the yards of the top 3 receivers on the Eagles. Okay, well, let me just do that. I actually went ahead and gave you my predictions, which we'll throw up on the screen right now. I think Devontae Smith has the most yards. I think that's the reason you drafted him with the number 10 overall draft pick. I think he's going to get pretty darn close to 1,000. Now, this is, of course, assuming that Hurts plays well and that the offense is rolling. If this is kind of a best-case scenario in terms of the Eagle wide receivers, I think Smith gets very close to 1,000, maybe not quite to 1,000. Maybe it's like 876. I'm saying 934 right here. The hope is that Reagor is number 1 or number 2. I mean, literally, if he has a 714-yard season after like a 300-yard season last year, that would be a massive success for Jalen Reagor. I want Fulgham to be up at the top. Excuse me. However, I do think that reliable Greg Ward, the 26-year-old oldest receiver on this roster, crazy to think, I think he'll be right up in there with 664 yards, and then I'll go Fulgham with 510. I think Fulgham has the chance to be the best receiver of the group, minus Devontae Smith. I mean, the guy has everything you want in a star wide receiver. There's just a massive gap from being an undrafted free agent to being a number 1 pick, like obviously Devontae Smith was. So, you wanted my predictions. That's what I would go with right there. Again, that's probably best case scenario. Maybe someone has 1,000 yards, maybe not. They haven't really had a 1,000-yard receiver in a very long time. But if all 4 of those predictions are remotely close, that means the Eagles offense is absolutely flying and playing a lot better than it has over the past couple of years, which is a good thing. Okay, I'll ask you guys this. Which Eagle wide receiver will have the most yards in 2021? Is the simple answer Devontae Smith? Because I think most of us will type Devontae Smith down below in the comments section. But if you think it's going to be somebody else, let me know who it is. Reagor, Ward, and Fulgham are all options. If you type J.J. or Whiteside, I will question why you do that, but hey, anyone can break out, right? It can be anybody's season, and it'd be nice if it was Whiteside's, even though it won't be. Okay, again, we are getting closer and closer to 2,000 subs, 20,000 subs, trying to get there by the start of training camp. We're stuck at like 18,629-ish, so we're trying to get more subscribers and new subscribers to the channel. So if you've watched our videos for a while, and a lot of you guys do, and you're not a subscriber, well, just go down below and do what everyone else does and hit the red subscribe button to help us out in order for us to go ahead and make more videos. We're going to get to 20,000 subs by the start of training camp. We'll do it with your help. Okay. Michael DeVos, he says, how do you think our defense will perform against the Dallas Cowboys this year? Oh, that's a good question. I talked a lot of Cowboys here on the channel, mainly because I hate them, but still, listen, Dallas depends on Dak. It's very simple. If they don't have Dak Prescott, or if they have a slightly worse Dak Prescott than what they've seen the past couple of years, then it'll be another average 8-8, 7-9, or I guess 8-9, with the extra game added on, Dallas Cowboys season. Because if Dak plays really, really well, like he did pre-injury, then I think the Cowboys can be good. The offense is obviously going to be very, very talented. They have a ton of wide receivers. The offensive line remains a question mark. Zeke Elliott is, to me, a big question mark in terms of if he's still an elite running back. Is he just a good running back? Their defense does have a lot of problems. And the question was our defense versus their offense. But their defense, I think, got a little bit better. I don't think Micah Parsons was that big of a need for them at early in the NFL draft. Obviously, corner is what they wanted, but they were all gone by the time Dallas went ahead and picked. I think Philadelphia can be, right there competing with Dallas. I think it depends more on what Philadelphia looks like as a whole. I think we know more about Dallas than we do Philly, just because Philadelphia has a lot of young and new faces and new pieces and obviously a new head coach. But I sit back and I go, can Dak be great? I don't buy into that. And can Mike McCarthy be a good head coach? Didn't like what I saw last year. Is he going to just somehow become a lot better than he was? I say no. So your NFC East, of course, last year, Washington is still going to be an issue, but here's the problem with every single team in the NFC East. They have question marks, right? Washington, is Ryan Fitzpatrick really going to be a 10-win quarterback for the Washington football team? I don't buy it. Is Daniel Jones good or not? That's the question mark with the G-men. Can they stop anybody on defense, and is Daniel Jones good? Obviously, Dallas has a lot of injuries that they're coming back from. Is Dak Prescott going to be himself or not? And then, of course, Philadelphia, brand new head coach, brand new quarterback, bunch of new young receivers on the outside. I mean, it's a young team overall. So it's anybody's division, as you will continue to hear up until the start and then subsequently, the end of the NFC East season. But I do think Philadelphia has a very good chance of being competitive, and I would take them over Dallas right now if I was a betting man. Okay, before we can keep going, the Eagle training hats are still available and still up. These just dropped this past week, as we are a couple of weeks away from training camp. So, of course, rep the Eagles by getting your official Philadelphia Eagles training cap hat. Just go to chatsports.com/Eagles camp. That link will be down below in the description box to pick up any of the fitted options. You got the fitted ones, you got the snapbacks, you got all different options in terms of your head size, because we all have very different head sizes. My head does not fit most of the hats that I try and wear, but it looks like the fitted one would be the perfect hat for me. Which one is the perfect one for you? Pick one up down below, chatsports.com/Eagles camp, and protect that noggin while you rep the Eagles for the summer. Okay, let's go to Isaiah Ruth here, who says, I think JaCoby Stevens will be a hidden gem. Every year, Eagle fans find a player drafted in the late rounds they think is going to be a hidden gem. Sean Bradley was the hidden gem last year, and Sean Bradley really didn't do much for Philadelphia. I think he's going to be more of an impact this year at linebacker. But I think Stevens is a very similar scenario. Played at LSU, obviously has some big game linebacker experience, but I think at the same time, you shouldn't expect anything from JaCoby Stevens. And honestly, he's going to have a hard time making the roster, because what they did at linebacker this year is they added Eric Wilson, so they shored up a starting linebacker spot, and then everyone else is healthy. And so you can only carry 5 or 6 linebackers. And so Stevens has a long way up to go ahead and not just be a practice squad guy, which could be the result of, again, younger guys in front of him who have more reps, like a Sean Bradley or a Davion Taylor. So could he be a hidden gem? Maybe, but again, anyone drafted in the 5th or 6th or 7th round, the odds of them being a really good rookie player, not just a good player, a good rookie player, very, very slim. So I'm going to hold my judgment on Stevens and wait till we hear some stuff coming out of training camp. Jared Anderson says, why won't the Eagles take a flyer on Malik Hooker? I thought about this because Hooker, of course, is still a free agent. He was a first-round draft pick of the Colts years ago. He's had a lot of injury issues, hardly played last year. He visited the Steelers last week and left without a contract, but he'd be very cheap, and that's the thought process here on Malik Hooker. Now, Philadelphia does have issues in terms of injury at the safety position. Rodney McLeod, obviously, coming off the ACL injury in December. He might not be available week 1, and so you could see Hooker being inserted into that spot. But they obviously have Anthony Harris, who they signed this offseason, and I think they feel really good about Kayvon Wallace and some of the other options there in the DB depth chart. And so I think that they're just satisfied with not mixing in an old rickety veteran like Malik Hooker and being more comfortable with a second-year guy like Kayvon Wallace. And they even got depth to the backside of like a Graylin Arnold out of Baylor 2 years ago, who very limited play time, but seems to be a multifaceted safety that they like to have on the roster. So I wouldn't hate a 1-year, $2 million deal for Malik Hooker. I don't think it'd be a bad thing in Philadelphia, but I think Philly sees it as, is it a necessity when we have some younger guys that we like a lot, plus a veteran in Anthony Harris, who we are very, very pumped about, and who ESPN called one of the best off-season free agent signings by any football team. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Before we go ahead and keep going here, if you want to get your question in on the show, you can go down below and use the hashtag Eagles, or you can DM me on Twitter. So give me a follow at RealThomasMott. I almost respond to every single DM that I get. So if you have a question, you want to just go one-on-one, DM me at RealThomasMott, and I more than likely will go ahead and respond to you. And so give me a follow right now on my Twitter account. Again, you see it on the screen at RealThomasMott. Okay, let's do two more. I mean, I feel like we're doing a lot more than we normally do, but this is good. Roy says, let's have some fun and revise history, okay? Where would we be right now if the Eagles didn't draft Hurts last year? Ooh, that is a good question. I think the Eagles would have drafted Justin Fields. I mean, honestly, like they would have drafted a quarterback. Like if we would have gotten to where we were when we traded Carson Wentz and we had not had Jalen Hurts drafted in the second round last year, they would have drafted a quarterback. And honestly, the draft would have worked out pretty well for them to take a quarterback. They could have had their pick of either Mac Jones or Justin Fields, based on who was available. Obviously, they might have looked at Trey Lance. You never really know. Zach Wilson would not have been available, but all those guys were taken so darn early. They would have drafted Justin Fields, and we'd be in a very similar spot to where we are at, but just imagine a rookie quarterback instead of Hurts, who actually has NFL experience, 4 games last year, and then you wouldn't have Devontae Smith, because number 10 overall, you could have traded up and taken Justin Fields. So it wouldn't be a very different roster. It wouldn't be like ultimate panic mode, but I do think that you're a lot better off with a more experienced year 2 Jalen Hurts. And I like Hurts a lot better than Justin Fields as a whole, just as better overall talent. Plus, you get Devontae Smith, and that's the real key and the real kicker here is that Smith is going to hopefully help out who the quarterback is, and that will, of course, be Jalen Hurts. But it would have been interesting because they would have taken a quarterback, and it would have been, restart mode for real versus kind of the soft restart we see right now based on the fact that Hurts is a year 2 guy. Drop a like, though, if you guys are glad that they drafted Hurts in the second round last year. I hated the pick originally, but with how the way things have played out, with the whole Carson Wentz drama, it's a good thing that they did. Hindsight's 20/20, so I'd give it a thumbs up for drafting Hurts and letting him be the starting quarterback. That way, you didn't have to deal with having a brand new quarterback, because rookie quarterbacks do not win championships in the NFL. We all know that. All right, one more. Mr. Snuffy. Okay, he says, Thomas, I feel more confident in this team than last year with Peterson and Wentz. How delusional am I? You're not delusional, because I'm more confident in this team overall, but it's not because of the quarterback and the head coach. It's because of the rest of the roster. I think right now you could put Carson Wentz on this roster and Doug Peterson on this roster, and I feel way better about this roster than last year's roster. Last year's roster didn't have a lot of talent. Like, we were kidding ourselves if the linebackers were going to be good. We were kidding ourselves if the wide receivers with Jeffrey and I remember trying to convince myself that Sean Jackson would be healthy. Like, honestly, and I was doing this too, I was kidding myself this team was going to actually be good. This roster now, regardless of Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, is way better. The offensive line is going to go ahead and be healthy. The receivers are a year better and younger, and they're not going to be old and injured, obviously, like Jeffrey and Sean Jackson were. The linebacking core is better. The safety core is better. The only thing that I think is a little bit worse maybe is corner. But, if you get running backs are better, I think this team is better overall. And I would feel the same way if Wentz was the quarterback right now and Peterson was the head coach and not Sirianni and Hurts, although I am excited about both of them, and we're going to see what happens, obviously, going forward. Okay, ultimately for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Hopefully you got your mailbag question answered. If you did not, go down below as I pulled a lot of today's mailbag questions from last week's mailbag. And so get your questions in for next week's mailbag right now. Use the hashtag Eagles in the comment section down below. And of course, be a subscriber, because that's how you get your question pulled. You got to be a subscriber, I check, and in order for you to go ahead and get your question up on the show. Ultimately for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.